Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Comic Crack. How are y'all doing? It's another week. It was a great chat this afternoon over on Ross's channel. We had the comic board Black Pole on with us in our kind of continuing open invitation to some special guests. It was a really good conversation. He's a great guy if you don't know his channel. Hello, hello, speak of the devil. Um, so I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really a good time this week. It's always a great time, but so just a quick kind of my weekly wrap up of what I've read. Hello, Tylox. Just some things that we talked about. I realized I forgot a couple of books. Well, not necessarily forgot them. Two of them I left aside on purpose. Ragamuffin, how are you? And then one of them I just forgot to talk about. So why don't we start with that? Where did I put it? So I guess because of what is it? Was it Wonder Woman Day or something recently? So when I went to 204 Comics, they had two Wonder Woman comics that were free comic book day kind of things. And this is kind of the first chapter in a graphic novel, Tempest Tossed, by Laura Hulse Anderson, illustrated by Leila Del Duca. Um, so I thought I'd give it a shot. I had a quick flip through it, and I kind of dug the art in it. And the paper quality was kind of interesting too. Not quite newsprint, but not kind of the usual glossiness that's there. I really liked this little chapter. AFPC, how are you? This feels like it's one that I would pick up the graphic novel to read with my daughter. And what I guess I didn't realize once I got to the back, so it's a retelling of kind of for Wonder Woman's origin story. She leaves the island to rescue some people who are drowning and finds herself outside of kind of the shield, so she's unable to find Themyscira again. Is that the name? And that's kind of where we're left off. That she's left outside alone with these people now. Um, so DC Essential Graphic Novels, Young Adult. I guess I just didn't realize how many of these there were. So 6, 12, 18, and then another 12 there. So what's that, 30? Like it's just a ton of them. Is there even more? No, that was it there. So there's a few that caught my eye. This swamp thing. So I mean, there's a few things here. So there's the graphic novel there of the Wonder Woman Tempest Tossed. Um, so I don't know. I'm kind of excited about that. I would absolutely give them a try. And Ashley, who owns 204 Comics, he was telling me when I was there that he's getting more YA stuff and more stuff for kids. He's got a bookshelf with some graphic novels, and he said the one thing that he's finding is the prices have been really good on a bunch of stuff. I didn't have a good look to see exactly what was on the shelf there. I'm guessing that there was some DC and Marvel stuff, but he says pretty much for the most part the books are really low cost, $8 to $10 kind of range. And he's like, if the kids don't like them, then you haven't spent an arm and a leg on something. And I mean, these days with the cost of a single issue, that's like 2 single issues. So I'm going to keep an eye on that stuff because, like I said, after I read this, I really think Lillian would dig this one. So I'm going to pass this one off to her and see if she wants to read more of it. So yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised. So that's really cool. It was just a fun, light read, nothing super heavy, but just really, really nice. Good for DC kids reading beats kids in front of a screen. Absolutely. Why art tends to have a certain style, simple and bright. Absolutely. And that was the thing. There wasn't a lot of busyness, but there was just some really nice illustration and really nice coloring going on here. And just really good stuff. So if you do see it out there, there was 2 free Wonder Woman Day comics. I wish I would have picked up the other one now that I'm thinking about it, just to give it a shot. If he still has copies next time I'm in, I'll grab one. And then the other that I picked up, and AFPC and Ragamuffin, maybe you guys know something about this. I know absolutely nothing about this. It's a series called World War III by Motofumi Kobayashi, from what's this company? Antarctic Press. And it's funny, they do a floppy in kind of the Japanese in the manga style, so that reads from back to front, top right down to bottom left. Um, it was interesting. I flipped through it at the shop. He had the first two issues. The third one, I guess, is coming out. Even though I'm a bit confused about this whole thing, it seems like this hit was released quite a while ago from Antarctic Press, like a good year ago. But he had issue number two on the new releases shelf, so I'm kind of confused as to what's going on here. The other thing I found when I jumped into this, it felt like I was kind of just diving right into a story already in progress. But I gotta say, I do like some of the black and white stuff. There's lots of panels where it's just shit exploding though, so there's not exactly a ton of detail going on. But there's parts of it that really feel to me like a war game, especially when they get into kind of looking at maps, like stuff like this, for example. It's just shit blowing up. That happens a few times. It's not horrible art. It's not what I'm kind of used to with manga or anything, to be honest. It feels like it lives in its own kind of world. Um, yeah, it seems very strange to me there, AFPC. He had number two on the new releases shelf, and they have all three pictured on the back cover in this case, but what would be the front cover normally on a floppy. So it was cheap enough, and I thought I'd give it a try. I don't know anything about Antarctic Press. I guess they have a couple of other manga stuff. I don't know if they're all reissues of stuff. Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I'm saying manga, but I think you're right. I think it is Korean stuff. Kaiju of the Wind is another one that's out, and I think there was a couple of other ads. Like this one has summer of 2021 written there. So there was that one, and then there was issue number two. I mean, now that I'm two issues in, I will check out the third one. I'll just kind of finish it off. It's not blowing me away, honestly. It seems a little thin on story, as far as like I don't really, like I said, it feels like I'm missing a whole bunch of issues, and this is kind of the climax of a bigger story. Here we go. Gotta love crack. Never heard of this, but Kobayashi did Cat Shit One, aka Apocalypse Meow, based in Vietnam. Wow. Ben Dunn of Ninja High School fame started Antarctic in the 90s, I believe. Okay, great. So yeah, taking a chance on stuff because I only had two comics on my pull list from 204, and that was like over 2 weeks because I didn't make it there last week. So I figured I'd try something else off the shelf. And like we talked about today, he was nice enough to put Gun Honey aside for me, issue number two. Again, I haven't read it yet. We did talk about this today, or Damien talked about it today. Flipping through it, again, like because I love this kind of crime stuff, I'm a big fan of this stuff. Like the art doesn't, I don't hate the art. It doesn't kind of immediately blow me away. I do kind of know what to expect with this kind of, hard-boiled crime stuff. So I mean, again, like Damien was talking about, you open a page like that, to me, no problem. But the thing is, like, I'm curious what it's about, and it's just strange, like Max Allen Collins, Ed Brubaker kind of raving about this book on the back of this one. So it's kind of, like I said, I'm used to kind of the hard case crime stuff. There's almost a little bit of Sam Keith stuff going on here. That figure of her there is very kind of Sam Keith like. Even that page, the layouts and things, there's something to that. It's weird. every time I look at this, I get a different impression of it. That stuff right there too, actually, now that I'm thinking about, now that I've got Sam Keith in my head, it's unreal how much Sam Keith influence there is on this page here. So I'm going to be curious to read it. I will read it. Um, Not all of the hard case crime comics have been hits. There has been some good ones though. There have been some ones that I did enjoy, so I'm always willing to give them a shot. I've got a bunch of the novels as well too that they put out over the years. I haven't made a huge dent in those ones. I have read a few of them. I think one of the newest ones they have out now is kind of a collection of 3 Stephen King books that were previously unreleased. I think that came out through Hard Case Crime. I'm not a big Stephen King fan, but for anybody that is, they have some kind of his unpublished stuff anywhere else with them. So that was the stuff that I didn't talk about. I just finished tonight. Maybe let's jump to this before we jump to kind of movies. I'll leave the last couple of books that I talked about already right for the end. Yeah, no, for sure. I hear that. Yeah, I'm not saying that it's a direct relation. It's just I see some of that influence in there. One of the things I meant to say last video as well too, Russ Works, when you're watching these, I don't know what's going on, man. I'm dying to see your comments because I always see it on my phone. The bell lights up and I see that you started comment and I get to read like the first kind of half a sentence. And then when I click on it to read everything else that you say, I just don't see it. And I saw last time on last videos, you tried a second time, same thing happened. So I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe you need to upgrade your system. I don't really know what the deal is, but I'm dying without my usual fix of Russ Works comments. So I'm hoping that I don't expect you to rehash the comments that you made the last couple of weeks, but I always know that there's some gems in what you're talking about in those comments. So I just wanted to let you know that I do see that you're trying to comment. I don't know what's happening. I think I'm seeing everybody else's comments. It just seems to be yours. I know that Earl Grey was having a bit of troubles with that as well too, where there was one week where he tried to comment and he had to do it a couple of times. Yeah, maybe he's getting censored on CensorTube. So I do see you out there, Russ, and I do appreciate you commenting. I'm jonesing to see what it is that you're saying to me. So I just finished the first 5, this first mini series of Just a Pilgrim, and it ends pretty grim. It really, I talked about it. Maybe I'll just rehash just a little bit since that was on Ross's channel. So it's Ennis and Esquera doing a story, a 5-issue miniseries for Black Bull, which was Wizard Magazine's crack at doing comics. I guess there was a second miniseries as well. I think the second miniseries only had 4 issues, and then I think they did a collection of everything into one book as well. So if anybody is curious, maybe hunting your, I don't know, where your favorite kind of back issue or discount bookstore to see if you can find a collection. Hello, G. And then there's issue number 5. So it's your typical post-apocalyptic world. I was saying in the chat this afternoon that one of the things that got me right at the beginning was on page 1, we get from the diary of Billy Shepherd, age 10 and a half, 8 years after the burn. And so Billy Shepherd is the narrator through the whole thing. And I thought at first that really set a good tone as far as like, because some of the stuff that happens in these first few issues is just plain silly and bizarre and over the top. And I think it was hilarious and really, really great. It does turn at the end, for sure. It gets a little grimmer at the end, and we realize kind of what this Pilgrim character is really like by the end of the 5 issues there. But I thought that was great, kind of seeing things through the eyes of a child, and kind of really gives you an idea of what you're in for. Just a lot of violence and bloodshed. I won't rehash everything that I said about it, but basically when we get a bit of backstory about the Pilgrim himself, we find that he was in the military, and he had a pretty rough go of things in the military, and was kind of shot down with his regiment, and they inflate this kind of raft to save themselves. And there's kind of four of them, I think there were, and he ends up cannibalizing the other ones to kind of survive over the 100+ days till he kind of gets saved. When he gets saved, those cannibal instincts were still in him when he kind of returns to society, and he starts killing people and making stews out of them and this sort of thing, and starts going insane, gets put in jail, comes back out finally after 3 years once this disaster happens, where the sun basically almost collides with the planet and burns everything up, basically. Scorches the earth, and everybody starts again. And he just becomes this religious fanatic, because over the years in prison, a priest kept coming to visit him and kind of telling him, like, you have to forgive yourself and that sort of thing. Greatest page turn in history while we're here. One of the characters gets trapped down a hole. They go down to save him, and they pull him back up, because this creature that's taken him, it doesn't devour people, it impregnates them. So there's a big buildup, and then we get a beautiful page turn to he's now full of babies, basically, but still conscious, still able to communicate, and everything. So it's just bizarrely funny. It's really just ridiculously good. So by the end, you kind of get, like I said, a better sense of him as a character, and how he's kind of manipulating everything to be kind of this. He wants this kind of final battle, and he's willing to sacrifice anybody. So his religious fanaticism, you get a really good sense of it by the end. And like I said, it's a fairly grim ending. I actually really enjoyed it. Surprisingly a lot more than I thought I would. I'll definitely be looking for the next issue. One of the things that I pointed out this afternoon too, we may as well show that here as well. You can tell it's a Wizard World comic. Oh, don't tell me the glorious ad isn't in this first issue. Come on, people. I just assumed it was in every single issue. You know what you're getting. They have their business model. Come and get it. And they promise you things like sexy comic girls, free online price guides, free collection tracking, buy and sell with no listing fees. So this is download comic babe pics from wizardworld.com. So it was them marketing a kind of a website, a one-hit website, promising you naked women, and then a chance to value your collection of the death of Superman being worth $10,000 or whatever it is. But it's just a fantastically ridiculous ad. It says it all about Wizard right in one ad there. So I thought that was pretty great. So that was that. I did want to talk a bit about, I am full on, yes, it's a hell of a lot of plot for such a short series. You're absolutely right. He crams it in, but it actually doesn't feel overwhelming. I think each of the issues really stands on its own. Like, it really feels like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very nice, Ragamuffin. Very nice. It doesn't feel overwhelming. It feels like every issue still flows really, really well. But yeah, I mean, looking back on it, it's a hell of a lot of plot going on, because I mean, that's not even all of it. There's still a couple of other things that go on in there, as far as kind of this group of people that he's rescuing, and that are kind of come out of the depths to kind of roam and try to find themselves some greener pastures to kind of start again, right? So there's all of that subplot going on as well too. There you go. Dylan vibe in the character, absolutely, yeah, for sure. There was an interesting Ellis book slated for Wizards Black Bull imprint. Can't recall the title. Something related to space travel. Never came out, though. I imagine, looking into it, which I haven't yet, I imagine there's probably a lot that didn't come out from that company. Don't know how long they lasted. So this series was kind of 2001, is when this Just a Pilgrim first four came out, and I think the next four came out the very next year. I'm pretty sure when I looked on CLZ it was 2002. So I am kind of knee deep in Zadawichi, and man, I am loving it. There's some films in here that once I'm done the box set, I'm going to be going back and watching. So far, there's three that have really stood out to me. They've all been really enjoyable. Some of them more kind of superhero-ish, comic booky, with just the amount of people that Zadawichi ends up killing. It becomes kind of ridiculous. Still pretty amazing, but once you start matching that up with, every once in a while they'll throw in these kind of slower paced movies in there. The first one being film number 8 in the series, called Fight Zadawichi Fight. And I think I spoke about this last time, where him and this prostitute kind of thief kind of start taking care of this baby to deliver this baby to its biological father, and the bond that they kind of build with it. So you get this sense of family. That was an incredible one. The next one that really caught my attention, yeah, Doom, man. The thing is, there's so many good ones. Zadawichi and the Chess Player, number 12 in the series. So what I've also found is there's a lot of these up on YouTube. So you can see the whole movie, and they're subtitled up on YouTube if you're curious. I love this one. So he kind of comes across a samurai who's a chess player, who's like a chess master, and they kind of have this friendship. There's a whole bunch of other plot going on as well too, with this kind of revenge story and stuff. But this samurai is so taken with Zadawichi that they start playing each other, and he closes his eyes too. So they're having this mental chess game back and forth. And this samurai is training himself to become a fighter, not using his eyes either. So there's one scene, I think he throws like a piece of paper up in the air, has his eyes closed, draws his sword, and cuts it in half. It's unbelievable. It's such a good story because of this bond that they have and the twists and turns that the story takes. And the other one that boggled my mind was Zadawichi's Pilgrimage. So this one comes after there's been a few movies where the slaughtering has been kind of just rampant, and Zadawichi is now kind of at a point where he's a little he's just feeling bad about the way his life has gone, and he's feeling really guilty, and he doesn't want to kill people anymore. He just doesn't. So he goes on this kind of, he just kind of gets depressed to some degree. And this is probably the most kind of spaghetti western of the bunch, because it's really, one of the final scenes is literally him standing at one end of a small town and the group of bad guys coming at the other end, and there's this huge battle that takes place throughout the village itself. And again, it's all about these relationships that he builds with these people that he's trying to protect. I am just absolutely loving these movies. So that one is number 14, Zadawichi's Pilgrimage. But some honorable mentions. One that's actually pretty funny is Zadawichi and the Doomed Man. Has some really good comedic elements. There's a character in here who impersonates Zadawichi at one point in the beginning, and he does a really good job of kind of mimicking the actor's kind of style and everything. But I'm telling you, man, there's a heart to some of these stories in here that surprised the hell out of me. I kind of didn't expect it. I thought it would be more of just the standard kind of samurai stuff and the standard sort of spaghetti western stuff. But it completely makes sense if you're going to. No, I haven't watched all of them yet. I'm only 14 and there's 25 total. So I'm just over the halfway mark. And then after on the final disc, there's a whole bunch of extras as well, which I cannot wait to get to. I'm really curious about what the bonus features are. But I guess over this time, it's a 10-year period that they're making these 25 movies. It's not exactly, it makes sense where you can have this kind of long running series and really take time And it just, again, these little nuggets of information that you get about the character himself during some of these movies. You start to find out more about his childhood. In the last movie, there was actually a flashback to his childhood where he still had sight. It didn't elaborate on that, but we're starting to get those nuggets as well too. So I'm finding just the pacing and everything is really, really impressive. And like I said, it's completely in my wheelhouse. I've always loved Japanese cinema. I love the samurai films. I love spaghetti westerns. So this is absolutely doing it for me. And some of the music is incredible as well too. There's one of them, and I can't remember which one it was exactly, that had kind of what would become that Ennio Morricone type of spaghetti western soundtrack. But again, we're talking 1965, right? So we're talking early on in the game. The rest of it has a very Japanese feel. Yeah, there was a television series as well too. That's correct. Yes. I saw a little bit. It's a different actor though, I think, in the TV show. So it was phenomenal, really fantastic. So one of the books that I read this week, as we talked about this afternoon, was Red Colored Elegy from, I'm going to butcher this again and I apologize, Seiichi Hayashi from Drawn and Quarterly. And I forgot to mention today, and I think it was mentioned in the chat by AFPC and Ragamuffin, there's other books, Red Rock and Other Stories from 2016, Flowering Harbor from 2015, and Gold Pollen and Other Stories, but 2013. And I'm assuming those are the other ones that Drawn and Quarterly has published, I'm guessing. So I'd like to dig into it more. So in the back matter by Ryan Holmberg. Yes, Ryan Holmberg. He talks about kind of the influences, and one of the influences was Seijun Suzuki on this creator here for this style of manga and what he was trying to do, as well as Jean-Luc Godard. So my son came over, and in our Criterion watching, we skipped 2 films because I really wanted to see a Seijun Suzuki because we're right there. We had one more. We watched Phantomas, and then the other one was the Wages of Fear that was coming next. We skipped it because the next 2 were Branded to Kill and Tokyo Drifter, arguably 2 of Suzuki's best movies. Branded to Kill is the final movie that got him fired from the studio. So Seijun Suzuki was a B-movie director for, was it Nikatsu? I'm forgetting now. I think it was Nikatsu, one of the studios. So he was a studio director and he was a B-movie director. So basically they got scripts and they had to film these. And what he would do when he got the script, he would immediately start editing it. And then he would just do some bizarre things within his movies. And the studio just became increasingly more and more aggravated with him because he'd start delivering these movies with these non sequiturs and these harsh cuts, like these kind of smash cuts and jump cuts where you're missing some of the information. And it becomes, even watching this one again, I did find that it was hard to follow at first because it's a long time since I've watched his movies. But once you get into the rhythm again, it's unbelievable the way he moves through and tells a story. So when he finally delivered Branded to Kill, that by that point the studio was just completely fed up. They're just, you've delivered us a movie, we can't do anything about this, how are we supposed to put this out? And we don't know what the fuck is going on here. That's it, you're done, you're fired, So at that point I think he had 40 something movies under his belt, and then he was gone for quite a long time until I think even possibly the 2000s. So I gave my son the option of watching Branded to Kill or Tokyo Drifter. Branded to Kill is black and white, and then this one is, thank you, yeah, Nikatsu. And then this one is color. So this one was supposed to be a vehicle for the main actor who, a lot of the actors and stuff in kind of the Japanese studio system, they were kind of pop stars as well too. They were expected to kind of sing their own theme songs, etc., and kind of put out these releases. So this was supposed to be a vehicle for this main actor, whose character's name was Tetsu. And the actor's name is not on the back for some reason, but it was supposed to be a vehicle for him, and that's not what Suzuki delivered. So Tarantino has kind of stolen from this because the theme song, the main character whistles and sings his own theme song at various times throughout the movie. So you know he's coming when all of a sudden you hear him whistling his theme song. And it's got some incredible sets and it looks beautiful. It opens up with some black and white, but it was some film stock that was just almost unusable. So it has a very strange look to it. Um, Really, really dark. You sort of get a sense of it here, but not so much. It's almost like they've put black makeup on their faces. They haven't. It's just the kind of quality of the film stock that they used to film the opening scene is just in that it's that kind of deteriorated. You get a sense a little bit about like of the colors and stuff in this one and the layouts and everything. There's an interview with him in this, and everything that to us is like, wow, that's groundbreaking. He's like, well, I just thought it would be more interesting. I wanted kids to get excited about this, so I framed this way, or I use these colors because isn't it much better to look at different scenes with different colors? He tried to use different colors for each scene, and we get even stuff like this too, where the main character's girlfriend is a singer in kind of this bar, and there's this sort of moon thing hanging from the ceiling that ends up changing colors a few times throughout the movie. Um, yeah, exactly right, Ragamuffin. You're exactly right. Lady Snowblood is a classic example of that. A really good example. Miko Kaji was a huge influence on him, so much so that for her female comic Scorpion series, there's a song that she sings in that one that he used at the end credits of, I think it was, I don't remember if it was Kill Bill 1 or Kill Bill 2, but of course, in Kill Bill, the Asian character there, that actress's name, that's completely Lady Snowblood for sure. So it was just a good reminder about this movie. There's just so many things in here that stand out. It was really fantastic to watch again. I think my son got something out of it as well too. He seemed to enjoy it. I sort of gave him a little bit of the backstory before we went in, but I would strongly urge anybody out there. I mean, again, like if you're a fan of like French New Wave stuff, there's no reason why you shouldn't be eating this stuff up. It's unbelievable. Just the kind of imagination. Yeah, that's right, Oren Ishii. The imagination, the kind of style he was using. I think even in a scene, the main character's suit changes color once the lighting changes. The thing that happens in one of the Zadawichi movies as well, too, this final one that I watched, there's a shot, we're sitting in the back and we're looking towards the entrance, and the woman is kind of in front of us, or right at the tail end of the back end of the shot, and we're looking outside, and then Zadawichi's kind of sitting, kind of facing down, and he's telling this story. And as he's telling the story outside in what's the studio, it starts transitioning to night, but it does it over the course of like 2 minutes. And it's just an amazing scene as he's kind of telling this story to her, and they're having this moment together, and just this sense that they've been talking all day and talking into the night. There's a couple of dramatic things in here that they do with lighting as well. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate about some of the Japanese films that take place in kind of a studio where they build the sets in the studios. They do kind of these Mario Bava type flourishes with lighting and change lighting in the middle of a scene, or kind of bring up the back and then kind of diminish the front lighting, or vice versa, or in Tokyo Drifter's case, completely change the coloring of the lighting to really, really nice effect. And it becomes, I've said it before, maybe here in some of these chats, but I know that I'm watching a movie. I don't necessarily want to feel like it's real life. I don't necessarily need handheld to make me feel like I'm part of the scene. I know I'm watching a movie, so I want you to present a movie to me, which is why I like guys like Peter Greenway and people like that. They present a piece to you. I want you to kind of play with that. It's the same with comics. I want you to play with the comic medium. I know that I'm reading a comic. I want to see stuff that I can't see anywhere else. And it's the same with film. Show me that kind of hyper real. Show me something that I'm not going to be able to see which I guess is kind of why I enjoy the Marvel movies so much. That idea of what CG can present to us, and what kind of imagination we can have at our disposal these days. I'm realizing that I'm really just zoned in on this conversation here, so I'm going to pull back from it a little bit now. Um, Needless to say, phenomenal movie. I've got a whole bunch of Suzuki movies. It makes me want to revisit everything. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, break the immersion as long as it's awesome. Exactly. And it's like we've talked about in the chats too with comics. It's like, yeah, it's great if the story is good. But sometimes I don't fucking care about the story. I just want to see some badass art. I want to see something I haven't seen before. It's absolutely fantastic when both can gel. But I mean, the thing with Suzuki's movies, especially because he was a B movie director, he wasn't getting these scripts that were groundbreaking by any stretch. They were very run of the mill, cookie cutter storylines about Yakuza, about teenage rebellion, that sort of thing. So he wasn't getting stuff that's like, oh my God, we've never seen a story like that before. It was very, very generic stories. It's just how he was presenting those stories and the sets that his team were building, because he ended up working with the same set designer, I think, through most of his career at Nikatsu. Um, yeah, I hear you. I hear you, AFPC. I hear you. I'm using that as an example, though, for the kind of mainstream effect, but I do hear you. So this idea of presenting this material you've seen a million times in just a completely different way to keep it feeling fresh. And as Suzuki himself says, I want the kids to be interested. I want them to be excited about this. So I'm doing things that I think the kids are going to be excited about. So he says, I do feel like he had a very creative slant to him, that he couldn't do things straight, even if he wanted to. That's just not who he was. So yeah, I'm looking forward to, I'm probably, once I'm done the Zadawichi stuff, I'm probably going to go through all of the Suzuki films that I have, some with my son that are on Criterion, because I've got a couple of DVDs as well too. But I have 2 Arrow video box sets that I don't think I've ever watched all of them. I've watched most of them. So next week, I'm hoping I can convince my son that we can watch Branded to Kill, and I'll talk about that one. That one has an infamous Japanese actor, Joe Shishido, who wanted to make himself stand out from the rest of the Asian actors at the time, the Japanese actors at the time. So he had plastic surgery, and he had implants put in his cheeks. So he has these kind of puffed out cheeks. He went to kind of a hack surgeon, though, because I think they caused some infection at some point, and he had to get them taken out. And then even into old age, he had these huge scars on either side of his face. But with those implants in, he has a very unique look to him. And again, Branded to Kill is another Yakuza film. He wants to be the #1 assassin, and what it takes to be a #1 assassin is kind of what this story contains. But it's black and white, and it's very moody, and it's very art housey, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again. Phew. Trying to tell me the Avengers Endgame isn't the defining movie of the 2010s. Yeah. So I don't necessarily want to go over everything else we talked about this afternoon. I sort of wanted to talk about those movies, and I feel like I did. I feel like I dove headlong in there. I hope that was interesting to listen to anyway. Just a kind of, again, a plug for Cuphead. Really, really fun book. And we were talking about it in the chat. I think the video game came first, then came the soundtrack released on vinyl, then came some Pops figures, then comes some comics, and I think it was Ragamuffin saying that there's going to be a Netflix show too. I think that's what he said. There's probably going to be a sequel to the video game as well. And what I did forget to mention is that it's some guys from Regina, Saskatchewan, who the province just over from me, who started this whole thing, who came up with this concept for this video game. So go Canada. Yeah, and apparently there's a volume 2 of this as well. So I'm going to try to get my hands on that, because this was just a blast. And again, for me, it's that art style I think is just outstanding. Have a look on YouTube, search up Cuphead, and just watch some gameplay videos on YouTube, just to kind of get a feel for how the animation is in this video game. Well worth your time. I'm hundreds of pages into this Usagi Yojimbo. I'm almost 340 pages into Usagi Yojimbo Volume 1, and I'm really digging it. Right now I'm into a story where he's had his swords stolen, and he's on the hunt to get those swords back. And again, it pairs really nicely with a Zadawichi and a fine Arctic water. And I'm digging it. I'm really digging it. I'm looking forward to what else is going to be contained in here. I can absolutely see the appeal. I'm still really digging the art. I know that people rave about the color, and the color does look great for sure. But I really like the black and white line work here. I'm really digging it. Honestly, I would start like AFPC. I would check out YouTube and just look for the Zadawichi series and just go for, even if you want to jump in at number 1. Let's see, let's just get the proper title for number 1. The Tale of Zadawichi. It's movie number 1 that came out in 1962, and black and white. I think the first 2 movies are black and white. So the Tale of Zadawichi, and then the second film was The Tale of Zadawichi Continues. I would really just dive into these, man. I wouldn't, and I know that I'm partially saying that because I'm really into this zone right now. And Seven Samurai, all those are fantastic for sure. There's nothing wrong with them whatsoever. Those ones have their kind of due, and there's nothing wrong with them. Yojimbo, as Ragamuffin is just saying there too, Yojimbo is my favorite of them. Yeah, Zadawichi the Blind Swordsman. Yojimbo is probably my favorite. As much as I love Seven Samurai and all the other ones, I love Yojimbo because that is the one that's really adjacent to a spaghetti western. It's like shot for shot. I think it's close to, I don't know if it's a fistful of dollars or a few dollars more, whichever one it is, but there really is a Clint Eastwood western that's pretty much Yojimbo. I love Yojimbo, but honestly, I'm so deep into Zadawichi that that's what I would say. And like I said, doing a quick search on YouTube for some of these movies just to look for trailers to post on Twitter, I was finding the entire movie subtitled and all. So I think all 25 you can find on YouTube, so you're not paying a dime for them. That was great, Crack. People aren't passionate these days. They think everything is performative. Thank you very much, Ragamuffin. I appreciate those words more than you know. And yes, you're exactly right. Zadawichi the Blind Swordsman. Yeah, and then everything else we talked about. Lonely City. I'm going to now sit and watch the rest of that Dave Cooper interview on Kayfabe to see the rest of that. Like I said, it's been great so far. I'm hoping to get to the library because now I need to return these. I'm hoping, like I said before, this one feels like it needs all of my attention. So I may really try to, as I might put Usagi aside for a little bit and try to tackle this one this week. I don't want to pressure myself or anything, but it feels like this one needs all of my attention if I'm going to read it, just because I really want to give it its full due. And I'm pretty damn excited about this one, as we talked about last week. So I'm hoping I can get Asterios Polyp read this week as well, and then I will absolutely talk about it. I won't be around next week for the chat because we have our convention. Plus there is a comic convention. Yeah, gee, I guess you weren't here last week. So I went to our public library and I got a bunch of books. I got a bunch of graphic novels out from the library, and they had this one. And you immediately popped to mind. I'm like, okay, I've got to get this. I've got to give it a shot. I ended up getting quite a few books from the library. So yeah, I won't be around next weekend, but maybe I'll do another late night chat like this, and maybe if I have this read, then I'll do kind of a special live video where we just talk about Asterios polyp. So there we go. It lands on the side. Yeah, flipping a coin and it lands on its edge. So you got to do both. Guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's always nice to chat with all of you during the day. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as we do. We really, really appreciate all of you coming and hanging out with us. We really, even though we don't always, I find when I'm talking about comics, I'm seeing the, especially today, I don't know if you saw me continually scrolling back. It was trying to catch up to the chat that I missed while I was talking. So I do really appreciate everybody coming out. And I know that Rasa and Damien feel the same way. We love having these week chats with you guys and just everybody hanging out in the room. So you and me both, I really want to see what I come home with as well. I have a very, very limited budget this year. So I'm going to have to be extra cautious. I have a couple of things on a list. So I'm going to be trying to really, really focus. But there's also a part of me that just wants to hit those bins and see what I can find. I'm hoping there's some, Sunday is usually the best day to go, as anybody knows. That's when you're going to get the free, or not the free, the dollar bins and some really deep discounts. Okay, later all. Take it easy.